Over the course of my short YouTube career, I would say that I have primarily become known for my single standalone structures. However, since last episode when we built our Season 2 Creeper XP farm, we now have access to all the experience we could want and the ability to repair our tools consistently. So today, I figured it might be time to tackle something a little bit bigger and switch up the formula a bit, which is why we are going to be building an entire fishing village in today's episode. Now, while I begin to collect some of the supplies we need for this build, I want to tell you why I'm doing this. And the goal for this series, or at least the goal for the beginning of this series, is to turn our entire starter island into one giant city. And we're going to have that city separated into different districts. For example, we're going to have this fishing and trade district, a mining colony district, of course we need a farming district as well, a residential district, and so on and so forth. And each of these districts are going to have a specific type of villager or multiple types of villagers that are going to be dedicated to said district. So for example, we're going to have a lot of our fishermen and Fletcher villagers inside the fishing district. That way everything will feel more alive and we will have a dedicated reason to visit each different place. Now I need to enchant this axe real quick. Efficiency 4, I don't know about that. Let's go ahead and craft up another one because that's not that great. Another regular efficiency 4. I mean, we could get efficiency 5 out of that, but that's still not the best. Also, if you're wondering where all of these places like this smeltery area are coming from, you guys really should check out my live streams. All of the interiors to my bases in hardcore I complete live in real time, so you guys should have your channel notifications on so you could check that out. But even though this axe isn't great, we're gonna rock with it for now, and we're going to get started with the first phase of this project. And I think we're gonna be starting over here on the southwestern kind of side of the island, and we're going to need to do a lot of terraforming, so all of these trees we're looking at right now kinda need to go. Alright, so with those pesky trees out of the way, we have a much cleaner area to work with. Now, this time around, in an effort to stay more organized with my build, I'm going to be taking some stone blocks and marking out some areas where we're going to need to separate the build into different sections. For right now, I think something simple like this should be good, just to give us a general idea of where we want things to go. Now, to get started with the actual building, we're going to continue using the stone that we've collected to start marking out where some walls are going to be, to kind of create a divider between where the actual fishing docks are going to go and the rest of the terrain. I'm also going to mark out some circular shapes around the area every once in a while as well to give us the opportunity to build some watchtowers. I want this fishing village area to feel pretty casual, but I do also want it to kind of be fortified at the same time. And I think that is a decent outline to get us started. Now it's time we go in and remove all of this dirt and stone blocks. I think this is a decent sized area that we've cleared out here, and my brain is already starting to work out where certain things are going to go, so I have to get my body to try and keep pace with it, and we have to start building the next part of this project. So I'm going to continue with the stone here and start to create an outline of where some of the docks are going to go. And I think having 3 on the right and the left side like this is going to look good, and then we're also going to build diagonally a little bit and have some diagonal docks in the middle too. I'm not sure how that's going to look, but hopefully it turns out well. Okay, I think that actually is going to look really sick. Now we just have to continue with the other side. And there we go, I think that's a decent outline. Now I just have to remove one more layer of blocks, and then we're going to start filling all of this in. And we're going to start this process by connecting the outline to the ground to get the shell of this thing done. And we're going to start at the bottom with some tuff and work our way up into cobblestone and then into andesite. And I'm hoping that's going to give us a little bit of the illusion that the stone that's been submerged underwater is, of course, more wet and a darker color, and the stone that's above water is a bit more more sun bleached and dry. Now I am running out of supplies, so I'm going to spend some time gathering some tuff, stone, and andesite to make sure we have all the blocks we need for this part of the build. I'm also going to use our shiny new axe to collect some spruce wood to make sure we have a wood block that's going to accent the gray stone nicely. Now before we install all of the wood and support pillars, I'm going to start up a live stream and we're going to fill in this entire area. Now with that done, we're going to take some of those spruce logs we got and start placing them around the outside edges of the docks here to create some support pillar looking structures. And I think that looks pretty good. I spaced them out every like 3 to 5 blocks, so we're going to keep going from here. And the next thing I want to do is come in with some spruce slabs along kind of the bottom area of the docks where the actual docks themselves meet the water. And I'm only going to do this on like 1/3 of the structure itself, because I want to have a smaller, lower area for the tiny ships to dock, and the other area is going to be for the bigger boats to dock. I'm also going to throw down some fences around the area as well to make it look like there's more support. Now we are going to get around to building some smaller ships later in the video, but I'm going to be saving the construction of bigger boats for another time, and I'll explain why we're doing that when we get to it. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. I'm also going to create a ramp off to the side here. That way the people, or I guess the villagers of this village, have a place to wheel all of their supplies up the ramp and onto the docks from where they're being dropped off by the ships. Yeah, I like that a lot. But now it's time to start building up the retaining walls of the dock area. And we're going to go for a traditional, simplistic, medieval style of wall here. I mean, it does not get more Minecrafty than this. People have been using this type of wall design for years, but this is going to match the vibe of the rest of this place. I'm also going to try to place some buttresses every now and again throughout the wall to give us another extra element of depth to the build. But with that done, now what I need to do is connect the top of the wall to the rest of the land, and we're going to do that by mixing in some path blocks, some coarse dirt, and the stone and cracked bricks that make up the wall. And I am going to try to make this transition from stone to dirt as smooth as possible. That way we have a cool walking area for our villagers to actually access the top of these walls and to get into the watchtowers. I think that looks decent for the moment. I do have more plans for what's going to go up here, but for now, this will do. Now, earlier during the live stream, something I didn't show was I also spent a lot of time collecting a bunch of mud blocks. And we're going to turn these mud blocks into mud bricks, because we're going to be using all the different variations of the mud brick blocks to create the roofs for the watchtowers. I think a splash of brown or almost orangish red color in this area would match really well. I also want to briefly come over to the right side of the docks here to finish filling out this area so that it looks more complete. And we're going to do that by just adding another retaining wall and building up another watchtower. But now with the wall basically complete, I want to start working on the center staircase that's going to be leading up to the village portion of this build. So I'm just going to start clearing this little area out and adding in some spruce slabs and some other types of slabs to give us a smooth walkway. And I'm actually going to build 3 different pathways here, kind of branching off in different directions to give us a little bit of variation in our choices for walking directions. I think that looks really good. Now we have all these pathways and a little spot for us to like plant some trees or have some rocks in the middle too. But now that that little segment is done, it's time that we actually start marking out where all of the houses are going to go. And I'm going to start doing that by just using some more stone to outline the base foundation of the builds. And I do want some of these houses to also be diagonal, so we're going to mark those out as well. And I'm still not great at building diagonals, especially roofs, so this is a bit of a risk for me. But with the outlines laid out, it's time to use those foundations to build up the rest of the structure. And we're going to start with this corner lot towards the front of the project. And again, I want to go for a very traditional medieval look to these builds, starting with a stone, cobblestone, and andesite base at the bottom, and working our way up to a spruce log, or rather stripped spruce log frame, and a spruce and oak wood roof. And we're also going to be having some variations in the roof colors as well, by including some of those mud bricks in that we gathered earlier. Now, while we continue to do this, I want to fill you in with the plan for the rest of the city that's eventually going to be completely covering this island. I do have kind of an idea for a class system for the villagers, so I want the lower classes to be located towards the outer rim of the island, and the more upper classes going towards the center of the island closest to where the mega castle is going to be. And if you notice, in some of these buildings, I'm including a little bit of diorite. Now, the plan is to have the mega castle and mega base be completely made out of calcite and diorite, just like our starter base was, to give the appearance that it's been sculpted out of marble. And the plan is that as you get closer to the mega base itself, the regular villager houses will begin to have more of that marble incorporated into them. They'll have fancier roofing, better materials, and more decoration. And as you move outwards towards the outer rim of the island, you will see that quartz and diorite less and less, and the houses will go from being stone and mud bricks to primarily wood and wood roofing. And I think that will be a pretty good way to show the progression of wealth in the world. But for right now, we're going to keep things pretty simple by building just a couple of shacks and small houses. This also isn't going to be a very big village, because to be honest, there's no reason for anybody else to live here other than the fishermen villagers who are actively participating in the trade that goes on around this area. Now, even though there's not going to be a lot of villagers living here, I decided to take these two separate houses and combine them into one inn and tavern type of building, where both of the main structures are connected at the top, and you have a cool little breezeway that you can walk through in the center. This way, all the people that are traveling to and from the docks to receive their items have a place to stay and a place to eat. This is starting to look pretty cool, if I do say so myself. Especially from down on the street view here, everything feels pretty claustrophobic, which is exactly what I'm going for. However, I will say all of these houses are looking very bland right now. So we are going to begin placing in some decorations, and we're going to start with some spruce fence gates. We'll just come along the bottom of all of the houses here and place them directly beneath the stripped spruce wood. And we're just going to open them up and have them face inwards to make it look like there are a bunch of little supports helping to hold the building up. We're also going to come in and place some doors everywhere, so that way we have where the entrances are going to be mapped out. And I'm also going to take some scaffolding and use those as window blocks. We'll throw some spruce trap doors down to act as shutters as well. And in addition to that, I also crafted up some composters and grindstones, and we're going to use those to make some little wheelbarrows. Now we can bring in some fences and some lanterns to give us a few light sources every now and again. And I would eventually like this entire area to be mob proof, but we're probably going to have to get to that in one of our live streams because I really don't have time to go into that much detail today. But I'm also going to take some leaf blocks and use some oak trapdoors and spruce trapdoors, I guess, too, to create some little window flowers and plants. And next, I want to build a little well sitting outside the tavern area. I think it would make sense if all the fresh water was collected right in front of where the restaurant is. And this is also going to give us us a bit more separation in our walking paths. I also want to go back up to the houses for a moment and create some bay windows every once in a while to give us some more variation. And down towards the bottom of the build where the paths begin to split, I want to replace a lot of this dirt with stone and stone stairs and stone slabs. This way it will look like there's a natural rock formation with dirt and grass and moss kind of growing on top of it. And we're also going to do the classic medieval Minecraft village thing where we throw random hay bales inside of trapdoors everywhere. Another thing we're going to do is replace some of the regular blocks with walls inside of the actual house builds to once again just give them more depth and shadows to make them more eye-catching. Now we're also going to take some tough blocks here and we're going to create a few chimneys dotted around the place to add a more lively element to the build. Now I don't want this area to be a lag machine, so some of the chimneys will be on and some of them will be empty and off. Now that that's done, we can create some more coarse dirt, and we're going to come in between all of the buildings here and start working on some more pathways. Another little detail I want to add is using campfires and spruce wood planks, spruce wood slabs, and spruce wood trapdoors to create these little piles of wood every now and again to make it look like the villagers have stockpiled up on firewood. Now, more towards the inner section of this town, I want to start adding some stone walls and different variations of stone walls and stone blocks to create a few miniature gardens. I'm also going to be using some azalea plants as well as moss and some tall flowers to give us a pop of color. Now, the pop of color is not the only reason why there are going to be flowers everywhere. I did want to add a little bit of lore to this area, so here's what I was thinking. I figured since this is a fishing district, it probably smells really, really bad, like fish and random other things and salt water from all the items that are being transferred at the docks. So to me, it would make sense that in order to combat that stinky, poopy smell, I think that might have been the first time I said poopy in 10 years. What the fuck? But in order to combat the bad scents, the villagers have planted flowers and bushes and all kinds of foliage everywhere to help mask the smell. And in a few minutes when this is done, we're also going to start building some custom spruce trees to make it look like they've grown really big pine trees to also help with the smell. I'm also going to build up some like half makeshift retaining walls around the area just to help keep villagers corralled when we actually start transporting them over and moving them into their houses. But now that that's done, it's time to start building all of those pine trees I was talking about. And I am actually very proud of these custom pine trees because this is the first time I myself have 100% from beginning to finish designed a custom organic tree. I always tend to be scared of trees and stay away from them because they can be so complex, but I'm actually really enjoying this one. And I figured now would be a good time to mention that if you're one of my Patreon members, you actually got access to a custom tree pack on my Patreon and an exclusive video that showed me designing these trees a couple of days ago. So if anybody else out there is interested in joining my Patreon, make sure you check out the link in the description. I have a $3 tier that gets you exclusive behind the scenes content, as well as early access to ad-free versions of all of my videos. And for an additional $7 a month, you get all of the previously mentioned things, and you get access to the schematic files for every single build that I've ever made in hardcore Minecraft. So if you ask me, I think getting access to hundreds of hours of work for just $10 a month is a pretty good deal. And I want to give a special shout out to all of the Patreon and channel members that are active during the time of recording this video. My Patreon and channel member community has been growing incredibly fast, and I am very, very grateful to each and every one of you. The idea that even one person thinks that I'm worth more of their money is an astounding concept to me, so just again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you to all of you. But let's get back to building those trees. Alright, so with that done and out of the way, I've decided to turn shaders off for a couple of minutes just so I can better see how I'm designing this next part of the build, which is actually going to be a gatehouse. Now, we're going to be following the same designs that we used on the rest of the build, starting with cobblestone at the bottom and working our way up to lighter colors of gray. And I want this part of the build to actually go up pretty high because I do want it to stand out a little bit. Plus, you have to keep in mind that this is the entrance to this section of the city, so it's important to make a statement. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually kind of struggling to design the top of the roof here, so we're gonna take a break from that, and we're actually going to start by connecting these two pillars together. I want there to be another giant archway here that you have to walk through in order to get to this section of the village. And we're also going to come below the arch here to add in some more stairs and regular blocks to give the arch more of said archy shape. Yes, archy shape, whatever. There we go. I think this looks pretty cool. And I love how when you're standing at the top of the build and walking down, you could see directly through the dock right to the ocean water. Now, even though I do like the way this gatehouse is looking right now, I still think it needs a little bit more pizzazz to make it look more interesting. And I'm going to use the same technique I actually used on the creeper farm to create some water stains everywhere by starting with smooth basalt, working our way to cobbled deep slate, and then to tough. Yeah, okay, that definitely looks better. So we're just gonna do this in a few more places like so. And oh yeah, taking a step back, that's actually looking pretty sick. I like the way this is turning out. Now I'm also going to come in up top here to design a few windows by just using some spruce fences. And to be honest, these things don't look that great, but they don't really need to, because again, this is kind of just a fortification. It's a place for soldiers to shit. It's a place for soldiers to shit? I did not mean to say that. It's a place for soldiers to shit. It's a place for soldiers to sit and watch over the rest of the village. I'm also going to use the same water stain design on the inside of the arch to not only, again, give us more of that illusion of erosion, but to also create some shadows and to make it darker on the inside of the arch. Oh yeah, and this thing definitely does look good with shaders too. And so now it's time to start tackling the right side of this build, or rather the right raised area above the wall here. And we're gonna start by cutting back some of this dirt to make room for some rocks. I think it would be pretty cool to kind of have a layered rock feature, because eventually on top of this, we're also going to be building a lighthouse. And I know it doesn't make a lot of sense to have a lighthouse this far inland, but I think having an extra building that's poking out and taller than the rest of the builds up in the top right corner would be a really unique thing to break up the skyline of this project. And so we're just going to start by outlining all of the dirt that we've pushed back with stone and stone stairs and stone slabs, just like we did everywhere else. I think that's a good look for the first layer. We're also going to throw some andesite in as well to give us more block variation and texture. And then we're just going to repeat this same process a couple more times to give us that layered effect. And while I do this, I figured now would be a good time to do the comment of the day section. But today, instead of a comment of the day, we actually have the winner of the art contest that I ran over on my Discord server, which if you haven't joined the Discord already, you probably should. There's a link in the top of the description. And so today, I'd love to give a big shout out to Coco over on Discord. They created this awesome character art of my character surrounded by my space whales in the end dimension, and I think it looks absolutely beautiful. And so today, they are the recipient of an exclusive Discord role, and I'm going to be linking all of their socials if they have any in the description of this video, so please make sure you go check them out. I'd also love to give a huge shout out and thank you to everybody else who created art for this art competition. We had a lot of really good entries, and I'm super grateful to each and every one of you who took the time out of their day to create art for this channel. Thank you all so much for the participation, and we will definitely be doing this again in the future. But now we are done with the rocks and the moss, and I think this looks absolutely sick. I also took some time adding some campfires into the area as well to have little places for, again, like the watchmen to sit around them and warm up when it's really cold at night. And this is also going to help us naturally light up the area. But with those rocks complete, it's time to start doing a little bit of terraforming here at the top of this mound to get ready for where the lighthouse is going to go. And I'm going to try to create the main lighthouse tower off to the left here, and then have an actual residence attached to it down to the right that's a little bit shorter than the lighthouse itself. Okay, so the lighthouse is basically done. Now I just have to figure out a way to kind of get this thing to light up in a medieval type of situation. We're not to like the point where these guys have electricity yet, so this needs to be a firelit tower. And I'm gonna try to just put some netherrack up here and some flint and steel and hope that the wood parts of this build don't burn down. Yep, and that's exactly what's happening. Okay, we're losing. The roof is... Oh god, the roof is gone. Are you kidding me? Dude, it's not even close to where the wood is. How did this catch? Oh, this is not good. This is really not good. Okay, I think we're all right. Just gotta rebuild this top segment here and we should be good to go. So we're gonna run back into the nether here and try to collect some magma blocks. I'm hoping that those will give the illusion of like hot coals and glowing fire without catching the wood on fire again. I don't actually know if magma blocks can do that, so we're taking another big risk here, but I'm hoping it's gonna work out. Oh yes, sir. That works very nicely. Look at how cool that looks. Dude, we're definitely gonna have to incorporate this in other parts of the island as well. That looks sick. And this village so far is definitely starting to come together. Now I just gotta add a couple more pillars onto the lighthouse, and this little build, well, it's not really little, but yeah, I guess it's kind of small. Not really. This build, or this section of the build, will be done. Looking good, looking good. Now again, I want these villagers to be able to kind of free roam the area, so I'm going to add another unique element between the gatehouse and the lighthouse. And so we're going to create kind of like a broken and ruined wall that's been overtaken by moss and grass. There we go. I think this looks very nice. Now this area does feel a little empty, so I am going to add kind of like a broken down tree or a tree that's been chopped down to make it look like the villagers are clearing this area to make room for new houses. And while we're at it over here, I might as well add a couple of stacks of logs as well to make it look like there are some more chopped down trees. But now that a majority of the village area is complete, I want to work our way back down to the docks and start creating some more decorations. And we're going to start by building these kind of miniature cranes that are going to be lifting up items transported by the boats. And in the spirit of full disclosure, this is not my own original design. I think I saw this on Pinterest somewhere, I'm not really sure. But anytime I ever build cranes on docks, this is the design I use, so to whoever created this in the first place, I apologize for stealing your build and I will try my best to give you credit. I believe it may have actually been Trixie Blocks from a while ago, so shout out to him for that. And I think adding one of these every other loading dock platform would look pretty good. Yeah, okay, I like the way this is turning out. Now we're going to go over to some of these and we're going to add some carts that are being lifted up by just throwing on some chests and some other random wooden blocks, and then adding trapdoors around the edges to complete the look. I'm also going to create a much smaller one that's just one block of hay surrounded by some trapdoors. And I'm also going to add a wheelbarrow here off to the side with some hay in it as well to make it look like the wheelbarrow is getting loaded up by the crane. Now, in order to help light up this area, I'm also going to add some lamp posts dotted around the place. And this is just going to be a couple of regular fences with some trapdoors on top and then a lantern hanging from them. But with that, it's time to get on to the bigger segment of this build, which is adding all of the workstations and shop stations that are going to be on the actual dock itself. And I want to start by adding some tracks on the ground to make it look like all of the carts that have been going to and from the docks have left some dirt trails everywhere. And this will also help us to get a good idea of the layout of the shopping area. And then we're just going to build up some of the shops. We're also going to decorate the area with various types of blocks to make it look like just a ton of items are flooding in from all the different boats. Now the section off to the right here is still looking pretty empty, so I want to add kind of a, I guess, open storage house type of build. So we're just going to throw up some spruce pillars and we're going to try to design a pretty smooth roof that slopes upwards using slabs and trapdoors. And we're also going to decorate the roof a little bit using some oak trapdoors and oak wood to give us some more light splotches on there and to make it look like there are some holes in the roof. But I think that looks decent. Now I'm just going to take some empty bookcases and we're going to build up some shelving units inside here. And we're going to throw on a back wall to give us a little bit of separation from the outside. Now we just need to throw down some more shelves and place some chests and barrels on top of it. And we're also going to be using the same design that we used outside to create some fishing nets using some cobwebs I collected from a mine shaft and some trapdoors. There's also the spot over between the storage area and some of the market stalls that's a little empty. So we're going to continue with the decorating and throw some barrels and chests and piles of wood everywhere to help fill it in. And from above, I think this place is turning out pretty awesome. Now I just got to open a bit of a hole in the back wall here and create a little bit of a doorway. And this is actually a hallway that's going to lead to our string duper. Now, the reason why I want a string duper is because if you didn't know, fisherman villagers and Fletcher villagers both have an option to trade string for emeralds. And so having this string duper is going to be incredibly overpowered. But now with that done, it's finally time to get started on one of the last parts of this build, which is making the tiny boats. Alright, so after some trial and error, I think we've got a cute little design here. I actually like these things a lot, and they definitely match the vibe of the rest of the village. Now, I'm going to also attempt to create a diagonal one. I don't know how this is going to look. My god, that looks like trash from above. Holy shit.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
That looks nothing like the other boats. Actually, from down at the side, it's not that bad. Maybe we just don't look at it from above. We're not supposed to be seeing it from up there anyways. Now, I went back to live streaming a little bit ago to get some trades with villagers done, and a lot of the people were pointing out that the area where all the rocks is still kind of looks empty. But I like the idea of the rocks being pretty visible, and I think it helps to make the lighthouse stand out a bit. So I think a good compromise here would be to build 1 or 2 houses that look like they're under construction. I mentioned earlier that these villagers had some knocked down trees and some piles of wood because they were making room for new houses, so it would make sense if we were able to actually see some of those new housing units being built. But with that done, I think that's pretty much it for this entire build. If you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure you drop a like and subscribe to the channel because this took a lot of time. But I really like the way it turned out. Now I know it's not complete yet and there's nothing in the market stalls and the villagers haven't even been moved yet. But that's because I'm saving a lot of the more finer details for my live streams so we have something to do. And I may or may not want to build a villager breeder on the island, so I'm going to hold off on transporting villagers until I know for sure what I'm going to do with them. I also mentioned earlier that I wasn't going to build any big ships, and that's because I've also been thinking about creating a separate section of the dock area and making that a shipyard, but I think I want that to be its own video. But to be honest, I'm very happy with how this area turned out. And again, I know right now that it may not feel complete, but trust me, as we begin to build the rest of the island, this is all going to come together and work seamlessly. But I want to thank you all once again so much for watching, and I want to thank you all for 75,000 subscribers. We are closing in on 100K, and I'm very happy with the direction the channel is going, and you guys seem to be as well. So thank you all so much for the support, and once again, I hope you have enjoyed this episode. But with that said, I've got to get going because I've got more work to do.